Welcome everybody to another video from the TallTal Presents Another Math Vid for Rockstars collection. Today we are going to be working with the coordinate plane again, and we're going to focus on measuring on the coordinate plane. Being able to navigate the coordinate plane is a huge skill to have as a math rock star, so let's lock in and get ready to go. Okay, a lot of words on this screen, but it's the target for the day. We're going to relate the coordinates of a point to the distance from each axis. So basically what we're trying to do, you can read through this, we're going to draw some polygons, we're going to use the coordinates of the polygons to kind of be able to see, can we use a coordinate plane to find the distance between 2 points so that we use it as a measurement tool, just between 2 points and maybe sides of a polygon. That's kind of be the goal of this lesson. So if you have a real strong understanding of how to put points on a coordinate plane or plotting a coordinate plane, go check the video about intro to the coordinate plane. But today we're going to work on using it as a measuring device, okay? All right, so let's just do a quick review. This will help you if you are a little sketchy on the coordinate plane. First of all, coordinate plane has an axis and has 2 axes and an origin. So you got the y-axis right here going up and down, and then you got the x-axis, and they kind of cross at a perpendicular angle. All right, and when they do, in the middle of it there is an origin. That's the middle of the coordinate plane, and that represents 0, 0, okay? And we know that everything that's measured above the x-axis is a positive value. Everything below the x-axis is a negative value. Everything left of the x-axis, of the y-axis, is a positive value, and everything right of the y-axis, everything left of the y-axis is a negative value. Everything right of the y-axis is a positive value, okay? So just to understand like how we have this working, okay? And when you look at it, this is a better understanding. So we have going this way, we were positive, and we went up, so we were positive. Over here, we went left, so the x value was negative, and we went up, so the y value was positive. So you can kind of see how these coordinates work together to really break down. If I have a point and it's a positive value, it's going to be there. If I have a ordered pair and they're both negative, it's going to go in the third quadrant. If I have a coordinate pair, say it's +2 and a -3, so a positive then negative, it's going to go in the fourth quadrant. Okay, so we just need to understand like where we're placing based on if I go above the x-axis, it's going to be positive numbers. If I go right of the x-axis, right of the y-axis, positive numbers. And then the opposite, of course, for the negative numbers. Okay, so let's review plotting. This will kind of get right to what we're talking about. So if I have a value that's -3, 2, it's an ordered pair, which means there's a pair of numbers. And the order we do it is from left to right. So we do the x and then the y. So the first thing we see here is a -3. So -3, we're going to go run then jump. If you remember me saying that in the other video, we're going to run and jump. So -3 tells us to run. The negative tells us to run to the left. So we go 3 spots. And the jump, the next one says we're going to go up and down. It's a +2, so we go up, and that's where our point would be. Okay, if we do another one here, we said that we had -1 and then -4. So that means we're going to run then jump. The first value tells us to run to the left because it's negative, -1. Next value tells us to jump -4, which means we pretty much fall in a hole 4 spots deep, and that's where our point would be. And I think I got one more on here for you to review. We got 3, -2. So 3, -2 says we run a +3, which means we run to the right. And the -2 tells us to jump -2, which means fall in a hole to -2. All right, so that's kind of how we, just as a refresher, that's how we plot ordered pairs so we can figure out where they go on a coordinate plane. Now, we can also think as ordinate pairs as coordinates. So again, think of this coordinate plane as a map, like a treasure map, and you're trying to find something. And so we also call them coordinates. When you think of an ordered pair, it's the coordinates on how to find a destination. Okay, so again, if we're looking at -3, 2, that's our coordinate, that's our ordered pair that we're going to think of as a coordinate. When we see this, the first coordinate is the x coordinate, and it tells us the distance left or right of the y-axis. When we see 3, -2, the second coordinate, so this was the first coordinate, it is a -3. And now we're going to see the second coordinate, which is -2, or I'm sorry, 2. That tells us, what does the second one tells us? It is the y coordinate, and it tells us the distance above or below the x-axis. And we just saw that in the review, and you may be confused as why I'm telling you this again, is because we're going to think about these coordinate pairs as more of a distance situation this time. And you'll see where I'm heading with this. So again, -3 is 3 units left of the x-axis. So we know it's going to be 3 to the left, and we know that the second one tells us the 2, it's 2 units above the x-axis. So we go up, and that tells us where our point is, okay? Again, we kind of just did that, but I want you to understand that we're talking about a distance. All right, so the distance from here to here, even though it's a -3, what is that distance? It's 3. We went 3 spots. And that distance up, it went 2 spots, so that distance is 2. So we're thinking about our ordered pairs more as a distance situation, okay? We can look at another one right here. Same thing. When you see the first one, that is your x value, which tells us how far to go to the right of the axis. And then the other one, second one, tells us the y value, which tells us where to go in comparison to the x-axis. So here's the first one. It was a +3, so we went 3 to the right, a distance of 3. And the second one is a -2, so we're going to go 2 units down. But distance can't be a negative number, right? I can't walk a -5 feet. If I walk backwards, I went in that direction, but it's not a negative number. It means I walked 5 feet. So this distance was 3, and this distance was 2, even though we ended up at -2, okay? It's kind of like absolute value. If you remember absolute value, the distance from 0. Well, our axis, both of them represent 0 in this situation. We want to know how far these points are from 0. Okay, so in the second, there would be our point. Now, ordered pairs as coordinates. So now you got that understanding. Sometimes we see ordinate pairs and they form a vertical line. This means we can easily find the distance between them. Check it out. So let's look at 2 points, okay? Let's say we have 1, -3. Now, how did we get there? The first one was a 1, so we went to the right. And the second one was a -3, so we went down. So to get to this point, we went 1, -3, right? 1, -3. And then the other one we did 1, 2. So we went 1 positive, 2 positive. So we went over and up, okay? So that's how we got to these 2 points, okay? Now, how far are these 2 points away from each other? Well, yeah, you could count all these squares and get to that point, but there's something that works a little better, okay? So first of all, we have this top one that is 2 away from the x-axis. So it's 2 units away. How far is this bottom one from the x-axis? Well, it's 3 units away from the x-axis, okay? So how far are these 2 points away from each other? They're 5 units away from each other. Now, what I want you to understand is the x values were the same. Both of them were 1, okay? So when we know both of them are 1, that means it's going to be a line going straight up and down because both of them are on the x, or on the 1 line, okay? Now, the other one said it's 2 away from the axis. The other one said it's -3 away from the axis, which is 3, right? You can't have a distance of -3. So we can just look at those and say 2 away, 3 away, and our answer would be 5. You see the connection between those? You don't want to sit there and count the squares every time, all right? Let's look at another one. So we say I have a horizontal line. Let's look at these 2 points, okay? I got -4, -3, which again, I ran -4, I jumped -3. That's how I got there. And then I got this next one that was, I ran 4, and I jumped -3, so I went down. So now we got these 2 points on here. And we want to be able to look at them and see the distance that they are away from each other. You see that they both have the same y value, which means they're both on this -3 line that goes right there, okay? So we need to find the distance between them, and we can do the same thing we did last time. We can just look at how far each one of these points is away from the y-axis. And you can tell that this one is 4 away, right? 4 away, and the other one's 4 away. Even though one's negative, one's positive, their distance is 4, right? So that means they're 8 units away from each other. Again, that is 4 units. That is 4 units. Do you see the connection? That's how it's going to make it easier for you to figure these out. And we can also use this knowledge to find side lengths. So now that you know how to find things that are distance away from each other, well, let's put a polygon out here, right? So we have A. A was 3, -3. So we went 3 over and 3 down, right? Because +3, -3. That puts us in that quadrant. Okay, we did this for all 3 spots. This B was 3, 4. So we went 3 over, 4 up. The C is -2, 1. So we ran -2, which means we ran backwards, and then we went up 1. Okay, and the D here is -1, go backwards 1, and then go down 3 because they're both negatives. Okay, and when you plot these points, if you connect them, you make ourselves a little polygon. All right. Now, based on what we just learned, we can figure out 2 of these lengths because 2 of them are straight lines that share a horizontal or vertical line. And this is the first one. You see how they share this line. Now notice this one, this is a straight line, but is it on a vertical or horizontal line? No. So we can't just count the squares to kind of figure it out. There's a different type of math that we have to do to that, which maybe a couple years from now. So how far are these two apart? Well, we've got 4. They're both on the 3, right? So the A and B are both on 3. So we can just look at the other number. One of them's 4 away and one of them's 3 away, right? You see this? 3 away and 4 away. So what's their distance? It's 7. 4 and 3 is 7. Okay. And then we got this other one situation here where we have a horizontal line that we can look at, right? A and D. Okay. And A and D share the y value. They're both at -3. So then we could look at the x value. How far? What do we have? A 3. Let me erase all that. We have a 3 and we have a -1. So 3 and 1. What does that equal? 4. And why am I skipping the negative? Again, the distance is 1. Even though it's at -1, the distance to get there is 1. So that tells us that length is 4 units. Groovy, right? All right, fill in some blanks here. Ordered pairs can also be called what? Coordinates. The first coordinate represents the x, right? Represents, remember in an ordered pair, we have x, y. That's how we do ordered pairs. So the first one is that x, all right? So x, and that tells us how far away the point is from the y-axis. So how far left or right it is from the y-axis. The second coordinate, which was y, right? It represents y, and it tells us how far the point is from the x-axis, which means how far up or down. Groove-tastic. And finally, when 2 points are on the same horizontal and vertical line, we can use their coordinates, right? The one that are different. So if it's at, both of them are at x at -3, then the y's are going to be different. And that's how we can find the difference. We can use the coordinates to find the distance between these 2 points. And if it's in a shape and you find the distance between 2 points, what are you doing? You're finding the length of a side, okay? Super cool, super cool. All right, I think you guys are ready to rock and roll. Have you ever seen this? One day I was walking down the street and I crossed this lifeguard walking and someone carrying a computer, and they crossed paths. It's called a screensaver. The screen is on the computer and the saver is the lifeguard. And if you don't think that's funny, something's wrong with you.